Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Culture of Splife podcast. I am your host for tonight. I've got kind of an interesting situation that's happened today. Both of my partners are both out sick today. So I'll be riding solo if it weren't for Day One, who will be joining me. So most of y'all know Day One that have tuned into the show. That's Eric Knowlton. He was a host on our show one other time. So he'll be joining me here in just a second. But looks like old Drew is joining. He doesn't have a voice, so but he will be able to comment, I'm sure. So we're glad you're back. We've got a new time. We're going to hope that this time is going to stick. Seems like it works with all of our schedules for the most part. So that'll be from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights. But we will be taking a break for spring break next week. The guys are going to be hanging out with family. So we'll catch back up the following Tuesday at 7 o'clock, unless somebody decides to extend their vacation. So I'm bringing Eric on right now. But if you're tuning in for the first time, please follow us on Apple Podcasts at Culture of Splife, as well as Spotify. And then we're on all social media, TikTok, Culture of Splife, Twitter, obviously Facebook, YouTube, some other random things that Drew's put us on that I don't even know what they are. But without further ado, Day One has joined us. Eric Knowlton, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josh. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Thanks for showing up. I know you'll show out, so thanks for being here with me today.
We're gonna do our best to freestyle and see what happens.
That's exactly right. Our pregame was just that, right? Talking about what we're going to talk about for the first time. You know, I should have pulled up my text chat with Rod and Drew all week, and that probably would have helped us a little bit further along, but we'll be okay. So
we can wing it.
That's exactly right. So as always, please comment. We will completely change the show if what you comment about sounds like something we want to talk about. But today our plans are to kind of catch you up on the NCAA action of the weekend. It wasn't really madness, would you say, Eric? Not a whole lot really happened.
No.
But we'll touch on the two or three small upsets. I don't think there was anything major to talk about, but we'll talk about
no history.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. My trivia question from a couple weeks ago didn't stay alive very long, did it?
No, it was I guess you could say it was prophetic.
I mean, exactly. That's right. University of Maryland, Baltimore County, they tweeted out that they were lonely, and I guess they are lonely no longer.
And for I guess was it Drew who was on the Purdue bandwagon? I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Something about Purdue and a deep NCAA run, they just don't go hand in hand.
That's right. Exactly. The painter was at work, for sure. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. Obviously, before we get too far into it, we're going to have Uncle Joe's trivia, what everybody knows and loves, of course. And then we're going to get into a little bit of NFL free agency, kind of get Day One's thoughts on that. And then Day One has come up with a segment that you want to call it anything?
No, I just wanted to get your input.
My input?
I mean, you are a maestro of sports knowledge and one of the smartest people I know, and I just thought it would be fun to kind of throw it out there and see what you thought.
There you go. So Eric's going, and I appreciate all that. Obviously not true, any of it, but that's fine. We'll move forward. So Eric,
modest.
Eric found something that a site that has reseeded all of the teams if the tournament were to start today. So that should be a whole lot of fun. I don't know any of the seeds, anything like that. And so I mentioned that our two comrades, Rod and Drew, are out. So Drew has been sick all week, and he's feeling better, but he doesn't have a voice. So kind of hard to do a podcast without a voice, I think. Larry does a pretty good job of having a podcast without a voice, but hopefully we'll be able to change that and get him on the show here soon. So, and then of course Rod had a little scare, so he's hanging out at the hospital overnight just for precaution. So again, thanks Day One for showing up today.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I guess without further ado, I'm just going to kick off Uncle Joe's trivia. What do you think?
Go for it.
All right. So I've got a pretty easy one today, and then I've got a really difficult one today. So the first one, I'll go with the more difficult first. So as I was watching the Kentucky game, first round, who did they play in the first round? I don't remember.
Play in the first
Amazing
round.
how quickly you forget this stuff.
Yeah.
But Oscar Tshiebwe had like 7 rebounds in 5 minutes or something like that. It was some ridiculous number. And so at the end of the game, he ended up with 24 rebounds. And it made me think, I wonder who holds the record for the most rebounds in a single college basketball game. So I came up with that trivia. So I'm going to repeat that again. Who holds the record for the most rebounds in a college basketball or men's college basketball game? I actually didn't check on the women's, although I did see that the LSU star had like 25 rebounds yesterday, I believe.
Well,
so that's
Rebecca Lobo back in the day.
That's right.
She probably had quite a few.
That's exactly right.
For the UConn juggernaut.
That's right. So if you're listening live with us right now, go ahead and comment who holds the record for the most rebounds in women's NCAA history. So I'd be interested to know that. That's not the trivia question, but Day One, and I would like to know that. So I don't know how many people are listening right now, but I know Drew is.
Well,
so Drew can help us out.
Yeah, and I think we're looking for the man, the myth, the legend, Larry. I mean,
that's it.
Calling out, putting out the smoke signal.
That's exactly right. Where is he?
The APV. Try to get him.
Exactly.
It's a good question though, because when Josh ran it by me, I don't know, 25 years, probably thereabouts. Well,
yes.
probably further than that. Probably
closer to 35.
So a little, so a little, little tip there, little hint.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty big.
That gives you an idea. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the second question I think is going to be pretty easy. And that is, there is only one NBA player that has played with both Charles Barkley and Zion Williamson. Name that NBA player.
What was the source of that question?
That I saw on something quite a while ago, and had never
obscurefacts.com.
What's that?
Right? I said obscurefacts.com.
Obscurefacts.com. There you go. There you go. So there's Uncle Joe's trivia. I'm going to spare everyone who's been listening to the show, but just know that Uncle Joe doesn't cheat. So please use your brain to come up with your answer. So let's move on to the NCAA tournament. I actually am going to pull up on my other phone here the games that happened, so we can kind of run through. I had a good buddy of mine who listens to the show quite often, Kevin, text me and asked me if I wanted to be in a bracket, and several other people did as well. And my answer to him right away was nope. Why do you think it was nope, Eric?
Because I don't know, the money involved?
No. So it is all about the fact that if I'm in a bracket, I will not get anything done between Thursday and Sunday.
Gotcha.
I will watch every single game.
Well,
it
and
will
you got to
not be
travel,
good for my
and you
household.
got to travel, and you got to travel, and you got to do all that stuff that you and your lovely wife and family do. So I get it.
Exactly right.
I
That's
get it.
exactly right.
It's you only have like 19 weeks of vacation a year. So
Speaking of which, I'm riding
we're
solo
friends, by the
today.
way. For anybody listening, we're friends. So that's just us picking at each other.
Yes,
We've
absolutely.
known each other for a
Yes,
while.
he's
So
not just he didn't just stumble on the show. I invited him onto the show
yes,
to listen at the beginning. So yes,
yeah.
for sure. So I'm gonna run it all the way back to Thursday. Oh yeah, okay. I'm just gonna run it back to the 11 o'clock game. So let's hit Furman, Virginia. Did you happen to see that game?
I saw a little bit while I was working. I know, you had one of your 19, like the aforementioned 19 weeks of vacation. But no, I did see it. Obviously, the ending. Who doesn't know about the ending now? Quite possibly one of the worst passes of all time.
Right.
Just a bad, listen, happens, but just a bad decision. And, you see that, unfortunately, you see that with Virginia a lot.
Yeah.
Of course, first seed ever to go down to a 16, so number one seed to go down to a 16 seed. I watched them play Duke in the ACC final, and at times they got really sloppy. Couldn't shoot the
Mhm.
basketball very well. So surprising, but at the same time, I mean, just a really really bad decision when a kid panicked.
Oh,
No,
absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, and I'm pretty sure they had a timeout left. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure they had one timeout left. So even if you were worried that you were going to do a Chris Webber, don't call a timeout. Just take the ball and smash it off the guy's leg who's crowding you,
yeah.
and it will go out of bounds. More than likely, it won't hit you. Obviously, if you've played a basketball game before, you know how to throw the ball off somebody's leg when you're in trouble.
Well, he also had a teammate on the right hand side of the court who he made eye contact with, and still just completely. I guess he just froze or just like. I mean, sometimes listen, they are. Sometimes we forget how old they are. And I don't know what year that kid was, but especially in today's world of college basketball, in which it's even younger and younger and younger because guys don't stay, right? I mean,
Right.
especially the good ones,
Yeah.
or they transfer or whatever. Sometimes the moment becomes too big for someone,
Sure.
and it happens. It happens,
Absolutely.
but at the same time, it will also go down as just a really bad play. I
Yeah.
mean, and certainly you feel for the kid and want it back, but at the same time, credit to to Furman. I mean, that was a big time shot. I
Oh,
mean, that
yeah.
wasn't a gimme. They
Right.
made it wasn't like it wasn't like it wasn't like it
But
was a layup. I
that's
mean,
right.
and he was a couple of feet behind the three, behind the
Oh,
line
oh
when he
yeah.
shot it. So, um, but if you were watching the game live, and even if you go back and watch it, it clearly looked online. From the time it left his
Oh
hands.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously a really exciting game. And the other thing too, Josh, that was a 4-13 matchup. I think there's only been 2 years. I may be wrong, and I may be doing something. Maybe we should do Uncle Joe's trivia in the future. So forgive me.
There you
I
go.
think there's either only been 1 or 2 years in which a 13 did not beat a 4. It's almost automatic.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually went to the Auburn game. I don't know if I told you that. I ended up
I saw it
going to
on
the.
Facebook.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I saw
Okay.
it on
Yeah,
Facebook.
kind of
Yep.
last second had the opportunity to do that. Well, Friday, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and nobody will know this because it didn't really matter in the game. But Wendell Green basically did the exact same thing that the Virginia guy did. It just so happened that Flanagan was down at the other end. There was nobody there, and it was a dunk.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I say, man, that was so stupid. But on the other hand, he probably felt like there were 9 guys on him. So if
Yeah.
he just tossed it back, more than likely one of his guys were going to be there. So,
Sure.
I'd love to have him on the show so we could talk about it, but I'm sure he probably wouldn't want to do that. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Probably not.
Probably
Probably
not.
a moment in time he would love to forget.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
exactly right. And then we had what? Princeton, Arizona.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And I'm going to tell you
now,
something. I watched that Princeton team a little bit. They can shoot the ball.
oh,
They
yes.
can really,
Yeah.
really shoot it.
And it seems they play the same Princeton ball of the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, just a lot
You
of
know, a lot of
rotation and everybody can shoot.
you know a lot of people forget this, Josh, but Princeton was actually the team that came the closest as a 16 seed to beating a 1 seed. They were the first team that almost pulled it off, and then it still went years before it happened. But that they the Princeton team almost beat Georgetown back in the day when Georgetown was a clear number one. I forget exactly what year that was, but that was when they ran that four corner offense.
Yeah.
And they literally just slowed it down. I'll never forget it because at the time I like to watch Georgetown play basketball, and they slowed that team down to 50-49 game in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and just put on a clinic with the backdoor
Right.
cuts. Remember Princeton with the backdoor
Oh, yeah.
cuts?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
really impressive team, and I'm going to tell you something. They might could pull off another one. You know,
Yeah.
I could see them just because of their ability to shoot the
That's
basketball. I could see
right.
them in the Elite Eight.
That's exactly
I really could.
right.
So
Yeah, on the way home, I of course stayed for the Alabama game just so I could see Brandon. See, obviously I've seen him on TV many times, but
yeah,
to see him in person, I mean that guy is special. But the guy that stole the show was none other than Javon Quinterly.
yeah,
That guy was on fire. And you want to talk about a guy, you mentioned the Furman shooter. I mean, it looked like it was money right away. Quinterly's last three threes, they left his hand, and he could have done the Steph Curry and turned around and run up the court. I mean, everybody knew they were money from the moment they left his hand.
yeah.
So but it was cool to get to see Alabama. I don't know that they can sustain what they're doing right now in the tournament if they continue to play the way that they're playing. Because without the defense that they played, their offense wasn't good enough to beat a lot of teams that are left in the tournament. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see against the San Diego State, which I've heard has the best defense in basketball, how that will go down for them.
Well, one thing I was talking to Riley about was having watched this team. It is, and of course, being an Alabama guy, this is my take on them. I think right now they're playing the best defense in the entire tournament, and the difference maker to me is, and it's the intensity. They all play it. Brandon Miller, even Brandon Miller,
Yeah.
and they come at you in waves, and when you've got that buy-in, to me, on the defensive side of the floor, I think they've got enough offense that if they will clamp down and play that just suffocating defense like they're capable of doing, when they're struggling a little bit on offense, the offense will finally find itself.
Sure.
So, and I think the one thing is that I think the one X factor for the tournament moving forward is Charles Bediako.
Yeah.
I really do, because he is a difference maker. My concern with Bediako is if you get into a very tight game with a team and it's the end of the game, he is a horrendous free throw shooter.
Yes.
And they could just do hack of Bediako. You know, I mean, just the bottom
That's
line.
Right.
But if he could make one of two free throws every time, you'll take that because of the defensive presence that he offers. But I really believe I'd like to see San Diego State as well. I've heard some different things on them. I've not physically seen them play,
Right.
but I've heard that their athleticism, their lack of athleticism does hurt them at times. But I have heard about their defensive, their defensive presence. But I think right now, from what I've seen, I think Alabama is playing as well as anybody in the tournament on defense.
Yeah.
And I think that could truly be an X factor. I think especially if you were to get to the point where you played at Houston again. Houston's very impressive, but they're inconsistent.
Sure.
I mean, Auburn had them.
Man.
Auburn had them, but then what happened was they decided to dial it up. I still worry about Sasser and Sheed in terms of their injuries, but they are incredibly athletic.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sasser is as close to 100% as I've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason why he was out of the game was because he got in foul trouble. He got in major foul trouble. And the crazy thing is, when he went out and number one, I can't remember what his name is, the point guard, or maybe the two. I don't know if Sasser's the one or the two. But when they went out, I'm only seeing your hat now. I don't know if you can see that, Eric. Eric, you freeze? There you go. You're back.
I apologize about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
So Sasser and number one went out. I didn't get his name, and they proceeded to go on a 24-8 run. And I mean, it was brutal. I was looking around like, we're getting blown out now, and Sasser's not even in the game because he hit his first 2 threes, and then he got fouled and made the 3 free throws. And I think he ended the half with 9 points. We missed about 50% of our free throws. They missed about 50% of their free throws. We shot 55% from the field. They shot 36% from the field. The second half, we came out very slow, missed first couple shots, and then we started getting fouled all the time. Like Janai Broom was getting fouled, wasn't hitting the shots. Then he'd go to the line. And I mean, it was like Mike Vanderjagt that I talked about a few weeks ago. And not that Janai Broom from the free throw line is Mike Vanderjagt as a kicker before he got the yips. But Janai Broom was a lot better free throw shooter than he showed Saturday night. And but everybody was missing.
Yeah.
And if only Wendell Green could have gotten to the line, since he's made like 35 in a row, but he didn't get to the line in the second half. And we missed 50% of our free throws again, and they made every single free throw in the second half.
Yeah, I think Auburn finished 19 for 36 at the free throw line. Now, I'll say this: the second half was I watched every minute of the second half. I watched the tail end of the first half. Houston was dominant in the second half, but the 19 for 36, was it a 20? Well, what did the final? I forget what the final was.
17.
Okay, so it's not that you
right.
36 from the line,
but you make 10 of those, and it changes the whole landscape of the game.
It does. I will say one thing about Houston: they are a big physical basketball team. Like even Sasser and Sheed. I mean, those are while they're not real tall, they're big, physical, thick guards.
Right.
Who can play that physical brand of basketball, and then they're big guys. They're not only tall. I mean, they are physical specimens. Yeah. So when you get into a game, especially now in basketball, where you can get into a really physical kind of grinded out style, right? I think they're well positioned. Plus, to be honest with you, they get to the Final Four, they're playing in their hometown.
Right.
So, obviously some inherent advantages with that. Now, I think they also had one of the toughest draws, having to go on the road, playing a 9 seed Auburn in Auburn's backyard.
Sure.
But
and we all know that Sampson whined about it enough before the first round even started. So
I mean, he goes and he's like, all I know is that we're playing at 6:10, and what do you say? Roll Tide. I need all the Alabama fans out. So he was begging. He was begging for that. But there's one thing I think we figured out. There's a lot of parity. We said that going in. Sure. You and I talked about that at dinner. that
Oh, yeah.
night.
That's right.
You know, there, you know, and listen, if Auburn, I think, even just plays a decent second half, we could be looking legitimately right now at 3 number ones being out.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was a half away from the 3rd number one being out. Now Alabama, after Maryland got up 9-2, it was pretty much, you know, it was pretty dominant from there on out. But you know, I think, like I said, this thing's up for grabs.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I saw Drew said that Arizona busted his bracket, and obviously it busted a lot of people's bracket. But Arizona, after I saw Arizona play UCLA, if y'all remember a few weeks back, I said I was picking UCLA to win the tournament. But then I watched the Pac-12 championship between Arizona and UCLA, and I was like, whoa, Arizona's really good. Well, they weren't really good on, what was that, Thursday or Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guys that were dominating UCLA, Larson, I think is his name, he was getting thrown around.
That's what worries me, Josh, about those Pac-12 teams.
Yeah.
Can they play physical when they have to?
That's right.
You know, and I look at some of the teams.
Oh, that was Princeton. How could I forget? Yeah.
And one thing about Princeton is, if you don't play smart, right? And they have a history of this. I mean, it just goes along with who they are. If you don't play smart, they're going to bait you into, you know, bad mistakes, you know, and their ability to shoot the basketball is going to keep them in games. Plus, now I think the other intangible that a lot of people don't ever really think about is everybody believes they can win now.
Yeah.
They do.
Sure. Definitely.
So you get to this point. Had FDU won, had they beat Florida Atlantic, would you really have bet against them playing in their backyard with a team that now knows that they not only believes they can win, now knows they can win?
Right. Exactly.
So, you know, now with all that said, you know, we always talk about this. The Final Four ends up becoming blue bloods.
Right.
But let's break down this top 16 in a minute when we get a chance.
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of blue bloods left.
That's right. Exactly.
There's going to be new blood.
That's right. Yeah. So we were talking about the same player. You were saying Sheed, his name, and I was calling him number one, same player. Okay. Yeah. So they both went out with foul trouble, and a guy that was averaging 10 points a game is the one that just played extremely well. His name is Tremont Mark. He averaged 10 points a game, and he had 26 on 9 of 17 shooting. So he was the difference maker. I mean, every time he came across his middle, little southpaw, 17-footers, 15-footers, teardrops, there was nothing we could do with him. So, but yeah, so let's talk about FDU. Yeah. Drew just said, I still don't know what an FDU is. And I'm trying to remember.
Drew? How about a little bonus Uncle Joe's trivia? What state are they in? You know?
I know.
I can actually get this one right. Let's see if Drew's listening. Does Drew know where it is?
Yeah, Drew's listening.
No cheating.
No, Drew doesn't.
A little bonus.
No.
You done?
Nope.
Right,
so
drop the knowledge.
The knowledge is Javon Quinterly, right? New Jersey. So you got Princeton and Fairleigh Dickinson, that pretty close to where Javon Quinterly grew up. He was actually interviewed after the game, and he was talking about that.
Yeah.
Which was a really cool question. The first question he was asked was, what did he think about New Jersey basketball? And so
you mean it was
cool.
Do you own a gun?
It was not.
Which was asked the week before.
Right.
Anyways, I just had to throw that in there because it was so inappropriate.
Yep.
For a kid who, by all accounts, has never been in any trouble. But anyways, that aside, no controversy on this podcast.
There you go. So Fairleigh Dickinson. I think I said last week that I was worried about Purdue. What do you say?
I only know because of the tournament.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I said last week
people who didn't graduate from there, Drew.
I said I was nervous about Purdue because big men aren't the answer in the tournament. You've got to be able to hit the three ball. You've got to be able to play defense. And I compared, what's his name? Zach Eddy or something like that?
Yeah.
Edie to Andre the Giant when he fought Hulk Hogan. How you like that, Drew, Rod? So
they got body slammed.
That's exactly right. And like everybody was in his space, and he's just so big, and he was kind of uncoordinated, and arms flailing, balls flying up in the air and stuff. And it was kind of funny. Kind of funny to me since I didn't do a bracket, right? So it would have been funny to me if I had Purdue in the Final Four.
Now, Josh, look, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but now you're ruining my case for Drew Timme and Gonzaga. I'm just saying, the big guy underneath,
Yeah, but they have some shooters.
They do. They do. I've seen. I got a chance to see them live, and not to get out of ourselves. They're a pretty good team, for sure. I think the other thing to your point too, and I'll say this too, as an Alabama grad, but a guy who is a Kansas basketball fan, been a Kansas basketball fan since a good friend of mine played ball there, starting in 1994. I think that's one thing. And this is going to sound really crazy because look at the success that Bill Self has had. 2 national championships, several Final Four appearances at Kansas, Illinois, all that stuff. But I think that is one thing about Bill Self and Kansas, a lot of times it catches up with them, is that high-low offense.
Yeah.
To your point, they don't shoot the three. The years they have, they've had great success.
That's true.
Other years in which they don't shoot the ball particularly well, they're out early.
Right.
Just like this year.
Yep.
Right.
Shout out to Derrick Rose for saying he'll make the free throws when they count. He's not worried about that, right? And then Mario Chalmers drills the three to tie the game and then win in overtime. What was that? 08?
Yeah.
08, I think.
08, down 9 points with 2.5 to go and came back and won in overtime.
Yep. Crazy. And I just think Gonzaga is so seasoned, I don't know if you heard Drew Timme get interviewed after the game, but your man dropped an F-bomb on national TV.
No, he's not my man. I'm just saying he's a good player. And let me ask you this. I just want to throw this out there. Anybody have any thoughts? Are Mark Few and Eric Musselman, were they separated at birth?
That's good.
I'm just asking.
Good.
It's
that
a
is good.
And unless anybody was there, I'm just saying.
I was hoping we could make it through this whole podcast without mentioning that guy's name. I do not like Eric Musselman at all. At all.
You didn't like when he ripped his shirt off?
Yes. And then somebody told me, well, Bruce Pearl shows up to football games without a shirt on. I'm like, okay, I don't know. That's weird. That's just weird. But no, the way that he carried on when they beat us in Arkansas last year, I was just like, man, you didn't play. If your players want to act like that, that's one thing. You're a guy in a suit on the side,
Yeah, I saw what Drew just did there. He intentionally misspelled Purdue to be like the chicken company instead of the actual university. I saw what you did that on purpose. That was not a typo, was it, Drew? It wasn't. That's Purdue chicken.
That's exactly right. No doubt. So, I think Gonzaga is going to be okay. They were down pretty big against K-State, and K-State played some really good ball, both in their opening round game as well as on Sunday.
That's the toughest region left, though, in terms of just credentials.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. Like, as you kind of go through and you break it down, that clearly. Is that the West?
Since I don't do a bracket, I don't even know. Rod or Drew can tell us, I'm sure.
I think it's the West. That's the West region. That's clearly the toughest one left to try to navigate.
Yeah. I just don't understand the way that it's set up. Why were there 2 1 seeds in Birmingham, Alabama? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I know that they're broken up by region, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know,
Uh,
and kudos to Birmingham. I mean, we got the best first round
yeah.
matchups for sure. And I mean, you know, if you kind of look at it, CBS sent their quote best announced team with
Right.
Nance and Rafferty, and then was Tracy Wolfson here?
Okay.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I mean that. You know, listen, kudos.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, kind of going down a little path there as well. I think the city did a really good job.
Yeah.
I think it's come a long way, and I think, you know, the opportunity to potentially host it again in the future will just be good for the city. You know,
Yeah.
they'll make additional, you know, improvements and upgrades and all that stuff. And listen, I think it's great that it came back because Birmingham does. My buddy who I referenced earlier in the show, who played at Kansas and played with Jacques Vaughn and Paul Pierce and Ray LaFrance and all those guys. He was on that team in '96 that lost to Arizona when they were number one. They were number one all season long, and they lost to the team with Bibby and Miles Simon and Jason. Who's the kid? Jason Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Arizona went on to win the championship, and of course it was a huge upset at the time. Of course, you look back and you look at the players that Arizona had with guys like, you know, Jason Terry and Miles Simon and Mike Bibby and all that. You're like, yeah, Kansas was great, but you know what? It wasn't as big an upset as, you know, as it first looked. But you had Providence here that same weekend. One of the greatest names of all time, God Shamgar,
Yeah.
was on that Providence team. And then I think Providence actually played. We were actually here. I was in college at the time. Went to the game, saw that upset. But one of the best games, you know, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in.
Yeah.
For sure. And then I know Kentucky's passed through here a couple of times on the way to the Final Four, as well. So, yeah. So really, really good. Birmingham's got a great history hosting it. I hope that it's back soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got one more game I wanted to get your thoughts on if you saw it, and that was Memphis, Florida Atlantic. Did you have a chance to see that game?
No, I heard about the end with the controversy.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of ripping Penny Hardaway. But
Yeah.
no,
Well, once I tell
unfortunately,
you
I did
what
not.
happened, you'll understand why Penny Hardaway threw a water bottle into the rafters or wherever it went. So, first off, shout out to Penny Hardaway if he's listening. Amazing.
Magic guy through and through right there.
What's that?
I said a Magic fan through and through with that.
That's exactly right.
With that, yeah.
Exactly right. So, oh man, I just lost the name of the player that I wanted to reference. But I'll find it here in a minute. He got his fourth foul with about 18 minutes left in the second half, and he's a pretty good player for them. And yeah, his name is DeAndre Williams. He was averaging 17.7 points a game for the year. 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 53% field goal percentage, like a really good player. And he gets his fourth foul. Penny takes him out for 3 minutes, brings him back in, and he doesn't foul out. And he made an unbelievable play to keep their lead. And then Kendrick Davis, who's their star, injured his ankle midway through the second half, and he ends up coming back in almost like a Paul Pierce type thing. And they get a rebound with like 8 seconds left. Kendrick Davis is dribbling up. He leaves his feet, and he throws the ball, and Florida Atlantic picks it off. Memphis steals the ball back from them with 5 seconds left. I mean, it was just like bang, bang, turnover. And I think it was Hardaway's kid that was on the ground. I think that's Hardaway's kid. Jaden was on the ground, and there are 2 guys, Wilcox and somebody else, that were clearly calling timeout. I mean, clear as day. Timeout, 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 timeout. Nope. The ref didn't even look. He looked down, and then it became a jump ball. FAU had possession, inbounded the ball, teardrop to win the game, layup to win the game. And so I understood why Penny Hardaway would be really upset.
Sure.
Because Memphis was playing really good ball, and if they hadn't lost Kendrick Davis for several minutes, and then obviously he wasn't 100%, like he rolled and turned his ankle at the same time, kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, that was unfortunate. So while I don't condone throwing a water bottle, I do understand as a retired intramural old man basketball player, sometimes emotions get the best of us, you know.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely.
all good.
I actually had a friend from high school on Facebook pick Memphis to win the national championship.
Wow.
Now, I mean, you know, kind of going out on a limb a little
Sure.
bit, but yeah, and you know, look, with Penny Hardaway's ability to recruit to a school like Memphis, I mean, they ought to be, you know, they ought to be really competitive.
Oh yeah.
You know, think about it. He along with a couple other head coaches can go in and have instant credibility.
That's right.
In a recruit's home. I mean,
That's
he's
right.
not going to lose a lot of battles.
Didn't work so well for Patrick Ewing, but
no, and I think, but one thing I'll say there though is with Georgetown, you have a little bit of a different requirement from an academic standpoint. It's a little bit tougher. You know, nothing against Memphis, but it is a little bit tougher recruiting to Georgetown because I do believe you do have to have a slightly higher standard than just, you know, minimum NCAA standards, which I don't think was necessarily the case under John Thompson, if I understand correctly.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, I was just about to say I'd love to see the transcripts of AI and some of those other.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense. John Thompson was a little bit lax on that front.
Well, yeah, not only on that front, AI was lucky to not be in. Well, he was in jail for a period of time for a bowling alley brawl.
Right.
That I believe involved a chair, swinging of a chair, you know, which can only be done safely in a WWE environment, controlled environment.
Shout out to Drew Tolbert.
Rod and Drew,
Rod,
yeah, Rod and Drew.
I don't think Rod's listening, but
yeah, well, you know, he'll watch the replay.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so you know, I mean, you gotta have professionals doing stuff like that, like Kevin Nash, and you know,
yeah,
rest in peace, Scott Hall.
That's it.
You know, guys like that. So
definitely.
Not Allen Iverson in a bowling alley in Roanoke, Virginia.
That's right. So did you pay any attention to the free agent signings in the NFL? Kind of flipping.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, especially being a Patriots fan. I mean, you know, are you just not enthralled with the moves that the Patriots made? I mean, you know, you got Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets here eventually. You know, you have Jalen Ramsey. You know, Dolphins trading for him. You have Buffalo, who's the class of the division. Doesn't really need to do a whole lot. And then you have the Patriots. Yeah. And you have Bill Belichick, who goes out and every value signing, every value commodity that's out there, you know, we're in the market for. You know, I'll say this on a broader scale. You know, I think the Raiders, you know, I don't know. Garoppolo, it'll be interesting to see. I do think Garoppolo is a very solid NFL quarterback. You know, you got the Cowboys who cut Zeke to save money.
Right.
Added Brandon Cooks. You know, Brandon Cooks, how many times has that guy been traded? How many draft picks have been involved?
And he's good everywhere he goes. Everywhere.
Yeah. But he's got a lot of
Patriots, Texans.
That's the issue. And that's, you know, from a Patriots perspective, they've been linked with DeAndre Hopkins, Jerry Jeudy, you know, quite a bit. I think that, of course, Juju came on. You and I were talking, you know, in the pre-show segment. I'm really not sure what they gained over Jacoby Myers, quite honestly. So I don't really know how that's gonna kind of work out long term.
Yeah.
But I think, I think the Cowboys, did they close the gap with the Eagles? Who knows? I mean, they get all the shiny new toys a lot, and it just never translates to
Right.
much. I think some of that is, and listen, forgive me for anybody out there who's a Dak Prescott guy. He still just hasn't convinced me that he's capable of winning at the highest level.
Right.
I mean, so, in terms of some of the other stuff, I mean, the Bengals going out, it got Orlando Brown to finally rebuild that line.
Yeah. I'm
What's
laughing
up?
at
I can't
Drew's
see the
comment.
comments. I can't see the comments.
Oh, you can. Okay. So this is a family show, so we're going to keep it that way. But Drew wrote, Jimmy G is going to be hands down the most relaxed quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I think I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the headline from today on Fox News.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that alone for our family show. But
yeah,
that probably touched on it too much, I imagine.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Yeah. But if you're at the same time, I mean, that's interesting with San Francisco and with Drew. I don't know who do you go with there? I mean, long term.
Yeah.
You hitching your wagon to Trey Lance, or is it Brock Purdy?
I don't think it matters, right? They're both rookie contracts, making no money. So
But who's going to sit the bench? But who's going to
do
sit
like
the
a
bench?
Steve Spurrier rotation if you wanted to,
Yeah.
Do whatever
without the
Jesse Palmer and who was the other guy?
It would have been Palmer and back then. Well, that was after Werfel.
I can see him, but I can't come up with
it.
It
was right after Werfel, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see him too.
Yeah.
But I still think though, like who's gonna be happy?
Yeah.
I mean, who's gonna be happy? And then, I know this isn't free agency, but then you have the Panthers moving up and taking the number one pick. And I know that, and I won't get ahead. I know that one of the hosts of this show has a pretty strong opinion on who it is that they traded up for. But now the chatter seems to be more that this may have been done for Bryce Young. So, who knows? I tend to agree with said host. I think it is. I think it is.
Wow.
I think it is. I don't think it's Bryce Young, but if it's not Bryce Young, he'll go second to Houston.
Right.
With with D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
So that that'll be interesting, and it's also interesting because I'm sure you heard this chatter. This chatter was out there. What if the Bears had just decided to forego Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Keep it, trade him, keep that pick, and start anew.
Right.
Be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what Justin Fields' problem is, but he can't throw the ball. Yeah. I mean, if he's not running, they're not moving the ball. So they brought in some kind of offensive juggernaut coach. So we'll see what he does. But I wanted to touch on Singletary going to the Texans.
Yeah.
That is huge. I don't play fantasy football anymore for the same reasons I didn't want to do the bracket. Because literally I would sneak away from the dinner table or the lunch table after church to check my scores in the bathroom. But I'll tell you, everybody better have James Cook on their sleeper list, because now that Singletary's out of there, I guarantee you he'll be the starter and he's going to be a beast in the NFL. He was showing that towards the end of the season. So I really like that move for James Cook to be the number one guy in Buffalo. So, wow, time is flying, man. It is 7:50. So let's move on to your segment. Talk about these seeds.
Absolutely. So I want to get you have it. We did prepped this. And so there's a little publication out there, ESPN. I think a few people might be familiar with. So they went in and there was an article and they ranked the top 16, the Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm.
They said reseed, but it's not truly a reseed. So
Okay.
it's 1 to 16. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run through it, and I want to see, Josh, what you think about this rank. I will. You know what? I'm not gonna ruin it. I'm not gonna ruin it. So I will wait on my opinion. But with that said, here is the list from 1 to 16.
Okay.
Alabama, Houston, UCLA, Texas at 4.
Should I be writing
UConn,
or will you let me cheat back?
I'll cheat back.
Okay.
So we got Alabama at 1.
I'm gonna write them
at 2.
down. Alabama, Houston.
3rd, UCLA.
Okay.
Number 4, Texas.
Yep.
Number 5, UConn.
Okay.
Number 6, Tennessee. Yep. 7, Gonzaga.
Okay.
8, K-State.
Okay.
9, Xavier.
Okay.
Not Xavier for anybody out there. Xavier.
Right.
10, Creighton.
Okay.
11, Arkansas. 12, San Diego State, the Aztecs.
Yeah.
13, the U.
Yep.
Like this.
Oh yeah.
Turnover chain.
Yes.
14, Michigan State.
Okay.
15, Princeton.
Okay.
And 16, the former Fighting Kiffins, Florida Atlantic. FAU.
Yeah. Interesting.
What you think?
I would say, I guess based on those, I would say that Alabama is right. I don't like
coming from an Auburn fan.
That's right.
No,
exactly.
No. Let me rephrase. No, more than that. Auburn grad. I do think that's very important. Any listeners in the state, we all go back and forth. Well, are they a fan or are they a grad? So we got an Auburn grad fan. No, I'm sorry. You went to UCF, right?
Yeah, the national champions. Remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Save that for another day.
You're right. I had a momentary, but married to an Auburn grad.
To an Auburn grad. That's right. Went to my first game.
As am I.
That's right. Went to my first game in 2001 where Damon, what was his last name? He was there for like 7 years. Kicked the game winner against Mississippi State last second.
Yeah.
Yep. And then 2 weeks later, I was there to see them beat the mighty Florida Gators, ranked number 1 in the country.
I remember that game. Yes. Well, you got to remember, I was at the Georgia first Miracle game. Thank goodness I was not there 2 weeks later, because I would have lost my ever loving mind. But
me too.
But anyways, yeah. that aside. What do you think? I know you probably have some changes. I do too. I don't think the list is bad.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: who would be? So think about this. Who would be your dark horse from this list? So you got to lean towards the bottom half of that top 16.
Miami played pretty bad against Drake, but then played really well against Indiana. So I'm not going to say that they're, I don't know, we'll see how this ages, but I don't see them in the Final Four. Yeah. But I definitely see them in the top 10, I think. I
would lean into a little bit, just because of their history. I'd lean a little bit, because once again, this is a dark horse, so we got to kind of stick. I might lean into Michigan State.
Yeah,
just because. Listen,
good. Yeah,
Tom Izzo is one of the greatest coaches of all time. I don't care what you think about him.
That's right.
He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and they are notoriously a difficult out in the tournament.
That's right.
So if I was going to go out on a limb, and I say that, of course, they're a proverbial, they recruit really good players and everything else. But just looking at this ranking, if you just took this on its face, I might lean into them. But I do know Jay Billis loves Miami.
Yeah.
Loves Miami. They've played, obviously they played in the ACC. Arkansas, Mr. I guess that moment where he jumped up and unfortunately took his shirt off will probably be in one shining moment. I don't like. Here's the thing I don't like about Arkansas and Musselman. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the controversy with them. They are notorious for snubbing post-game handshakes. The assistant coach that knocked the phone out of the student reporter's hand from University of Kentucky,
Wow.
who was just filming them walking off the court. I don't like the way they go about themselves.
Right.
And I know they had a lot of fanfare going into the year. I think they probably underperformed. So this will probably not age well, because if there was one, team from the other, the bottom 8 of those 16, it might be Arkansas. But I think I would lean into, I like what you're saying about Miami. I think that's good. I might lean into Michigan State to just take a little bit different, just because of the heritage.
Yeah. Exactly. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, if Izzo could just coach in the tournament, he could probably coach till he was 100 years old. Yeah. It doesn't matter what he does in the regular season. He gets to the tournament, and they play extremely well.
He does.
I really like that Hauser kid.
Yeah.
He's just a really fundamentally sound, great free throw shooter. I like him.
Well, and that's one thing about Michigan State. They're always going to play, for one thing, they're always going to play hard. They're going to play, for the most part, they're going to play good, solid, fundamental basketball. Mm-hmm. They're probably not likely to beat themselves.
Right.
Which, and when I look at it, I tell you the other one, and I kind of wanted to get, looking at the Sweet 16, do you have a Final Four if you had to pick tonight?
I don't even know who's up for it based on the regions.
Okay. So here's kind of my thoughts on that. So if I had to pick it, looking at the regional matchups, Houston, but I tell you what, Texas would be a tempting pick. I mean, that's if it gets down to a Houston, Texas, Elite Eight, that's it. I like Gonzaga, but I'm going to tell you something. You got UCLA and you got UConn. I mean, flip a coin. Yeah. I say that based on having seen Gonzaga, up close. And I watched a Gonzaga team that beat what I feel like is a very good Alabama basketball team, and beat them fairly soundly here in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So don't ever, and I get that was in December. Okay, right. That's not lost on me, but still. So Houston, Gonzaga, I would go with Alabama. I think that, of the remaining regions, if they will play up to their capabilities, they are clearly the best team left in the South bracket. That I think they will also have a decided crowd advantage being in Louisville.
Yeah.
So, and then to be honest with you too, even though I said Michigan State, and I clearly stated my dark horse, that Tennessee basketball team's playing pretty well right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to muck things up a lot. They're not particularly fancy, but they're Rick Barnes is a really good coach. I'll tell you, I think they beat a pretty solid Duke basketball team that was really starting to come of age a little bit.
Right.
And I think I think the veteran presence of several of their guys really, really helped. So I would have to go with Tennessee. So it'd be Houston, Gonzaga, Bama, and Tennessee. But once again, I do like from kind of looking at the list, I could see Texas for sure.
Yeah.
And I could see potentially Michigan State. Princeton, I just think at some point in time they'll get out athleted, as I like to put it. and the shots won't be falling, and they just don't have the athleticism to keep up
Right.
with a team. More a sustainably more athletic team for 40 minutes up and down the court.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's to what we talked about earlier. It's a crapshoot, and if you notice, there are not a lot of blue bloods.
That's
left.
right. That's exactly.
I mean, if
right.
your blue bloods would be UCLA. I don't know. Would you classify UConn? I wouldn't classify them as a blue blood. They're a perennial.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're not a blue blood. So you got UConn, and you've got what? Michigan State would still. Michigan State to me would be in the same classification as UConn.
Right.
Really good, but they're not blue
Yeah.
blood. So you're only talking about UCLA.
Yeah.
And then even with Alabama, I mean, this would be our first Final Four.
Yeah.
So we've been to an Elite Eight under Mark Gottfried, but it'll be interesting. It's good to see, and of course Houston's won a national championship before. They've had some great players. A lot of people forget that.
Did you mention Gonzaga as a potential blue blood?
No.
I mean, they've at least been in the tournament for as long as I can remember.
I think they fall into that UConn, Michigan State, and then what have you. But
as far as
Houston,
championship contender type blue
exactly,
blood,
exactly. I mean,
shout
it's
out to Adam Moore.
Because I mean,
right?
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking, when you think blue blood, you're thinking UCLA, Kansas, Duke, Kentucky,
Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn. No, I think you meant North Carolina, not Auburn. No, Auburn's a blue blood in football.
No, they're not.
Jim Nat. Wait. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. All in fun.
So Final Four, go. I got the bracket in front of me. Yep.
Gonzaga, Bama, and Tennessee.
Gonzaga, Bama, Tennessee. I'll go Bama, K-State.
I like that team.
Houston and UCLA.
Okay. So then, refresh my memory. Okay, so Houston's in the
Midwest.
So Midwest matches up against West.
Yep.
Okay. So in my Final Four, that would be Houston and Gonzaga. Would that be Houston and Gonzaga squaring off, and Bama and Tennessee squaring off?
Yeah.
Wow. Could you imagine an Alabama and Tennessee Final Four game? All right. Well, going to that, then I think Houston and Gonzaga and Bama and Tennessee. So, I'd have to go Houston, Alabama, and I know that that's kind of cliche picking, but I mean, I'm just kind of following it. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
This is not a bracket. This is not a bracket pick from scratch here. We're going off of 16 teams left. So I guess I'd have Houston and Bama rematching in Houston again.
I do have a buddy that went to Xavier, and we've been texting back and forth a good bit, quite a bit on Thursday with the scare, or Friday, whatever day that was, Friday, I guess, the scare that they had against Kennesaw State.
Oh yeah,
where that was kind of controversial, but be that as it may, they moved on, and then they played extremely well against Pittsburgh, who people were kind of getting hot on. So I would, if you ask me who I'd like to be in the Final Four, it would be Xavier, UCLA, Alabama, and Tennessee. I think those would be the best matchups.
I could live with that.
I think so.
And you don't have.
I mean, Tennessee. Wow,
Alabama,
you lose your point guard, and now you're dominating everybody. How did Auburn beat them, by the way?
Tennessee,
right? Like last game of the season.
Well, a couple of things. One, listen, Auburn. Well, and here's the thing too. Who is the kid who opted out of the NCAA tournament?
He actually didn't end up doing it.
Oh, okay.
He's a 5-star who's done nothing for Auburn. He's from France, Traore. He ended up playing. That was all talk.
I mean, I kind of look at it like this. Auburn was kind of back against the wall a little bit. That was sort of a must-win game, and it was at home. And you know, listen, I'm never betting against Auburn and Bruce Pearl at home in a must-win game.
Right.
I mean, winning in Auburn is extraordinarily difficult. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to jump ahead, and and whether I'm ever on the podcast again or whatever, I'm going to say this. I think I said it to you, Josh, at dinner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't, I said it to somebody else. I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to jump ahead to college football for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia's win streak will come to an end at Jordan-Hare Stadium this season. Mark it down.
Wow.
Here's the reason why. I think Hugh Freeze has brought in a nice little collection of transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Freeze can coach. That is an incredibly intimidating environment in a game against a rival. Okay? I'm just telling you. Unless Auburn is decimated with injuries, okay, Georgia's win streak ends in Auburn, especially if it's a night game. I have said that now for a few months, and I honestly believe it.
I know you can't see the comments, but Drew said, could you imagine how insufferable Tennessee fans would be if they beat Alabama in football and basketball in the same year?
Yeah.
For
we won't even go. We won't even go to the football.
Right, exactly.
But no, and Drew, I will just say this. I do not like Georgia. So an end to a win streak. I mean, hey, whatever.
And
whatever.
Drew,
but I believe that.
Drew, you said exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, Ziegler tore his ACL 2 games before the Auburn game, or a game before the Auburn game. But I guess they just hadn't gotten their sea legs yet, and now they've figured out how to use Vercosi or something like that more as the one, and they're just clicking. So we'll have to see what happens.
Tennessee was very up and down this year.
Yeah,
it was just kind of helter-skelter with them. You know, they you know, and that's not always necessarily a bad thing. And, you know, it's just kind of like NFL playoff football. You get somebody who's on a roll, look out.
Right.
Just like we talked about in the pre-plan for this. And I said to you, Josh, had FDU beaten FAU, would you have bet against them playing across the river from their home?
Yeah.
At Madison Square Garden? I know I wouldn't have.
Right.
With the entire place cheering for them.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't have bet against them. I mean, look. Did you see that? Did you see that crowd in where was that? In Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, FAU had like 150 fans, and the rest of the building just showed up, and
right.
you know, and everybody watching on television.
Oh yeah.
Was pulling for FDU as well.
And I know we're moving on, but I'm sure, did you hear about the controversial situation that happened at the end of that game?
The FDU and FAU?
Yeah. I mean, just so unfortunate. I mean, I think everybody would have been on the FAU bandwagon, you know, Cinderella story. I know they're a 9 seed, but still Cinderella. And then the guy attempts a windmill when the game's out of reach and FDU's not fouling. Thought that was really, really poor sportsmanship.
Never been there.
He got booed right away, of course, and not a single FDU player shook his hand.
Sure.
So I thought that was awesome, and he wouldn't talk to the media because he knew that he's messed up. So. Well,
and also Case never been there before.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
There's a way to act, and you know, I'll just say this before we move on too. I'm sure you know, for anybody who doesn't know, FDU's coach just accepted the position at Iona, which was vacated by Rick Pitino as he moved on to St. John's for a 6-year deal. And I believe Rick Pitino is 70. So, you know, interesting hire. St. John's has a tremendous history in basketball. So, you know, It'd be interesting to see. I think they're one of those programs, Josh, that it's good for college basketball if they're good.
Yeah.
To kind of go back to the past with the history, Lou Carnesecca and all those guys. Certainly a tremendous history, and then also just the history of and the legends of playground basketball in the city of New York.
Yeah.
So I think that's good.
Meta World Peace and Chris Mullen and yeah.
Oh yeah. Tremendous history there.
Isn't that funny? The first name that came to my head of Ron Artest was Meta World Peace.
and the first thing I think was Malice in the Palace.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right.
It'll always be remembered. That's probably what it'll always be remembered for.
Punching that fan in the face as he was walking onto the court.
Good basketball player, though.
Yeah, he was.
Unfortunately, that's not what people,
That's right.
Not what people are going to associate with him first.
That's exactly
right. Of course, Mark Jackson, way back.
Yeah.
Some really good players came through St. John's.
Right. All right, so we're going to wrap up, but before we do that, we have to give you the answer to Uncle Joe's trivia. I did see that Larry showed up here at the very end.
There he is.
Larry Legend. He's been on for the last 3 weeks, and actually he caught on with us on TikTok and then came back over to Facebook with us. So pretty cool to see him out there again, and we'd love to have him on the show at some point. So don't be surprised if I reach out to you, Larry. But my answers for the trivia question, you want the hard question answer first or the easy one?
Let's go easy.
Go easy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the easy question that I asked was, there's only one NBA player that played with both Charles Barkley and Zion Williamson in the NBA. Who was that player? And the answer to that is none other than Vince Carter. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, Vince Carter started in the NBA in 97, I believe. I think he left after his sophomore year at North Carolina. And he just finished his 23rd year in 2020 as a member of the Atlanta Hawks. So, he played a lot of basketball games, and not a lot of people talk about him, but he did it well for a long time.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
Wow.
I drew 1897 to 2020. That's a good one. 1897 to 2020. No, that's Jimmy Carter. I'm just yeah.
Oh man, is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, he's probably a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
but probably not for
I think it's the totality of the body.
Yeah. Whenever your last opportunity is, what is that, 10 years after you're out of the NBA, something like that? I don't know what the number is, but it'll probably be towards the end. He'll kind of get that. He did well for a long time. So. I'm kind of aging myself, but Vince Carter and I graduated in the same year. So
I'm older than you are.
And you're older than me.
So stop throwing. Yeah. Don't throw those arrows. Shoot those arrows.
That's right. Funny Vince Carter story, real fast. I'm at an Orlando Magic basketball game. It's between the first and second quarter. Everybody just kind of small talking, in between quarters, and all of a sudden, Paul Porter, who's been the announcer for the Orlando Magic since their inception in '89, said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a basketball player from Mainland High School. He's a sophomore in high school. His name is Vince Carter, and he's going to come out and do a couple slam dunks. And we're all like, oh, okay, this is going to be good. And you could hear a pin drop in that arena. I mean, he was doing windmills from just inside the free throw line when he was 16 years old. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Who was the guy? His name's this guy, Scotty. What's his name that won the dunk contest last year?
McClung.
Yeah. So did he put on a show like that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, go back and look at the 2000 dunk contest when he did the It's Over. Yeah. And he did not dunks that good, but quite similar.
Spud Webb, best dunker of all time. At like 5 foot. I know, I'm just joking.
I don't
but
know.
to be about 5'6".
From a height standpoint, I think I would agree with you until I saw what Mac McClung did at 6'2".
Yeah. In terms of like the sheer, the pageantry of it, but just the sheer ability with what you had.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to.
I mean, Spud Webb could throw himself an alley-oop and get up there and dunk it with one hand. You know, this guy's like pausing in the air, clicking the backboard, jumping over people.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
But you knew Vince Carter before he was Vince Carter. That's what.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
I got you.
Definitely. And rumor has it that the reason why he went to North Carolina is because old Michael Jordan picked up the phone and called him.
And dropped the bag of cash. Probably. You know, that was before NIL now.
Oh, way before. Yeah.
Way before.
Way before.
So he'll be on the show with you and Rod and Drew in a couple of weeks. You just
Vince
ring
Carter
him up. Yeah. You just
definitely.
ring him up.
Definitely.
You're going to be like, hey, remember me from back in the day?
Interestingly enough, I reached out to an old buddy of mine from high school that played in the Sweet 16. And I won't shout him out, but I've invited him to come onto the show. So hopefully he'll be coming on the show. So that'll be fun.
So you think they'd let us do this? You think they'd let us do this show from Hop City?
Probably.
Go.
Yeah, why not?
Let's get a live audience.
That's right. Absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
Like,
you know everybody over there.
Well, not everybody. Couple people.
All right. So the second question of the night, or the first question, the more difficult question of the night, was who holds the record for the most rebounds in an NCAA basketball game on the men's side? And that would be none other than the GOAT, as far as Drew Tolbert is concerned, Bill Russell, with 51 rebounds in 1953 for William and Mary. Actually have a buddy that is in the Hall of Fame at William and Mary. Maybe I can get him on the show too.
Do you know where William and Mary is? I've actually been there. I've been to the campus.
Virginia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Williamsburg, Virginia. I heard it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Russell's still the greatest winner of all time.
That's for sure. No
Shout
doubt.
out with my Celtics.
That's it.
So.
That's it. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, I'll be at the Celtics game next Sunday, right?
I know. Would you please tell Jaylen Brown? Would you please tell Jaylen Brown that, listen, we don't need any, any hard feelings. We want him to stay in Boston for a long time. You know, these interviews he's been given, he's showing that he may not be happy there. We don't need to break that up. Yeah, we don't go check it out. New York Times.
Well, maybe in Boston it's like opposite day, right? Because Kyrie Irving stood in front of 20,000 people and said he wanted to be a Boston Celtic for life.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just playing a game and he'll be a Boston Celtic for life.
Yeah, I guess, and Kyrie will be a Dallas Maverick for like 20 games. So who knows where that's going to lead? That's been a disaster if you hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
I know we're coming to the end of the show, but that's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Rod's comment aged very well about not only will he not be a Maverick next year, he may not make it through this season as a Maverick.
We're not exactly sure how many games he's actually, by the time he's done, because he's playing hurt, I don't even know they're going to make the playoffs. Think about that.
Right.
You're sitting sixth in the West when you trade for Kyrie Irving, and you have Luka and Kyrie, and you can't even get into the play-in tournament, and that's a real possibility.
Right. Well, both of them have been hurt. Luka was hurt, and now he's got a thigh strain or something. Yeah. So, but
when they've played together, they still haven't been particularly successful. They've played well numbers-wise, but it doesn't work. So, So, anyways, different topic. A couple weeks, you throw that out there.
Yes.
When they don't make the playoffs.
Yes, definitely. So we will wrap it up for today. We thank everybody for showing up. Thank you very much for filling in for me day one. I love that nickname.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest nicknames on the planet.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Thank you guys for
Definitely
bestowing that upon me. It is a good one. I'm going to get an airbrush T-shirt this summer at the beach, day one.
That's right.
No one's going to know what it means.
That's right. And I know Rod wasn't able to tune in. Feel better, Rod. And obviously Drew has been dominating the comment section, so we know he was able to show up and probably type just as much as he speaks on the show. So that was good. Didn't miss a beat there. But in all seriousness, we'll be off next week for spring break, but then we'll be right back at it the following Tuesday at 7 o'clock, unless we change due to family events, basketball games, soccer games, whatever the case is, because obviously, as we've told y'all, family is the most important in our lives. So, but I'll be sure to post on Facebook. We'll post on the other social medias to let everybody know when we're going to be live. Until then, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and YouTube Shorts. So until next time, enjoy the rest of March Madness, and we'll see how our final 4 picks end up. Y'all take care.
Take care.